I'm looking at a model for your advanced lighting, and question in Revit is adding a drop ceiling into a space and hanging soundproofing and lighting elements. So these are things we did in class, right? Hopefully repeating stuff you've already done. So I'm looking, I'm going to open the model. We're assuming you have a floor plan. Okay, so I don't have the underlay that goes with this, but okay, so the first thing you look for is a floor plan. So there's a plan here that it's defaulting to, that I assume is the floor plan in question, right? So when you're doing presentations, you remember this from class, can't find this on YouTube, show complete, to make certain that any existing geometry gets merged with. We're looking at a plan, and it looks like we dropped in a north, south, east, and west elevation. Good. Okay, I'm guessing the ceiling plan in question is this one. Right. We have a bunch of partitions in here. So it looks like there's an acoustic ceiling tile ceiling. There may be more than one ceiling. Let me make sure. No? Okay, so one problem we're going to have is that somehow that ceiling is going to collide with another ceiling beneath it. So let me delete whatever's here and make sure that we only have one ceiling per room. Okay, so there's the ceiling there. And there are your interior elevations. So there's one view looking that way. Not sure what this thing's doing. There's the ceiling there. Ceiling there. At 12 feet. I'm guessing that's what you want. Let's go back to the plan. So let's just deal with the quiet study room, right? And probably what I'd do is drop an elevation marker in there. So remember, we can place the elevation marker and then, oops. And let's activate north, south, east, and west so we can see what we're dealing with. So you want to be able to see, right, your the systems that you're designing. So I'll choose that elevation. Right click, go to view. Go to elevation view. I don't see a ceiling in here. I see a big long curtain wall. Level 1 ceiling plan. So there is a ceiling. The ceiling is at 34 feet. I don't know what the heck it's doing at 34 feet. So let's change that so that somewhere we can find it, right? So I'm looking at a room. I have an elevation marker dropped into that room. There's a ceiling at 12 feet. Let's go back to that elevation. And there's a crop view, okay, and there's a ceiling. So to add lights to the ceiling, you would load lights into the model, insert, load family. We're just dealing with the lighting that comes with Revit. I think we had more luck with the MEP type lights. Internal. And let's just load a 2x2, a spot, a downlight. It's one of these flat lights. I don't know anything about these, but you need some lights to put into your model. I don't know anything about this ceiling either. My work is going to be constrained to this room, which is some kind of quiet, what did we say? Quiet studio, right? Let's go to the ceiling plan. Now that we've loaded lights into the model, looks like there's a lot of other lights loaded as well. I'm going to ignore those. It doesn't matter. I mean, you assuming that you found a fixture that you want, you're going to use it. I'm going to use the 2x2. All right. This 120 volt, I'm going to drag it, place on face. And let's place an array of these at regular intervals. Don't know anything about the spacing criteria for this particular lamp. That's all stuff you will study. You probably learned about that in class. That is, each one of these luminaires comes with That's a set of specifications that guide you in placing that light. The light distribution pattern tells you what kind of spacing it will support on each side versus along the length of the light, right? So now we have lights in there. Let's go to the plan view. And in order to create a 3D view, this is one of the things that we did in class. You go to view. We select a camera from here. And let's drag in this direction. Looks like there's a door there. There might be some kind of meaningful, useful view. Okay, so there's the drawing so far. Again, show complete. Looks like we're okay for phasing. Don't know if you set solar north in the model, but if natural light is important to you, you turn shadows on. This is reporting what sort of natural light is coming into the space. So there's a good deal of natural light coming from somewhere here. And the sun settings are some in session. Let's set it to, let's assume that someone did a little bit of work and set up solar north. Let's go summer solstice, 12 noon. Okay, so there's noontime light. We have a source of natural light. We have a source of artificial light, these 2x2 fixtures. We can do a render. Open this rendering dialog. Leave it at draft view, and the lighting is going to be interior, and we have both artificial light and natural light. So I'm going to do sun and artificial. Okay. And then hit render. This is a perspective view if you wanted a perspective. So there's quite a bit of light. In this view, just using the native Revit light modeling and rendering capability. I'm sort of ignoring Enscape and that sort of, those things are arbitrary at this point, right? So what it's trying to do is render what we've asked it to look at so far. I'll put the output back out in this Saturday student workshop files, which begins this Saturday. Okay, so that looks a little bit hot, right? A little bright. Go into exposure. I'm going to guess that we need to darken the overall exposure, maybe not that dark, right? Okay, so there is with an exposure of about 11. So there's a significant amount of light, of natural light that's coming into this model. I don't know anything about the model. I'm looking at a particular room, but I'm assuming that the enclosure was modeled in some kind of meaningful way. If it wasn't, you want to look at this and think about, okay, well, why is it that we are flooding, this view is flooded with natural light, which looks like it's going to be a bit difficult to control, right? I could change the scheme to exclude natural light. So I could say interior artificial only and click on render again. So here's what happens using only artificial lights as source of lighting, right? Same things apply. You can brighten overall by adjusting the exposure here. It looks like whatever material is on this furniture is terribly bright. So you may want to investigate that. And there is some kind of reflective surface on the top, these tabletops. Quite clearly, there's some specular reflections going on because you could see the lighting fixtures, right? Okay. If you wanted to save this image, you would save it to the project and give it a meaningful name. This is the quiet room artificial lights only. Okay. And then what Revit does is creates category for renderings. Looks like some stuff has been rendered. There's the one we just did, rendering progress. Okay, so there are, let's go back to the questions. Questions, I'm trying to add a drop ceiling. So we did that. We added a drop ceiling. Hang soundproofing and lighting elements. Well, we hung some lighting elements. I don't know what you mean by soundproofing. So if that means some kind of ceiling tile or independent architectural element that is going to be hosted by that ceiling and drop below it, well, you would put it in the same way that you would lighting fixtures. So let me see if I find any in the model. So if I go to level 1 ceiling plan, right? Right now we only have these 2x2 fixtures. Let's look in the project browser and see if we have any other equipment. I don't see anything in lighting fixtures, maybe generic models. All right, so in order to continue with this, you have to give me something that we're going to place in there. But let's assume, for example, I wanted to create a cloud element in the ceiling. So that might be, if I go to architecture, ceiling, and I'm going to choose a gypsum board material and change the height to 10 feet. And I'm going to sketch something of an irregular shape here. So let's say I wanted a cloud element that looked something like that. And that had some kind of sound attenuation properties to it. Right, so I've modeled it as a ceiling. Finish edit here. So now when I go to these 3D views, there's my my cloud element is just sort of hanging up there. I don't know if I've answered the question, but insofar as I can, I believe that I have. So we placed a drop ceiling, we added some light fixtures. I added this cloud element, which is just an arbitrary shape for drop ceiling. I mean, that could be lower or higher, right? I could select that ceiling and say, instead of 10 feet, let's change the value to 8 feet and apply it, and it would be lower in the space. Okay. Let's file, save as. Saturday workshop file. Advanced lighting question by Meredith. And that's the model. It's in Saturday workshop files. And I'm going to stop there. I hope that is useful to you and your colleagues, classmates.